Welcome everyone to week 7 of the Founders Forward fundraising series. It is October 29th. It's been a couple weeks since Jonathan and I have talked now, so should have a decent amount to dig into. Jonathan, I saw you tweeted it was the end of your fiscal quarter, or how did the quarter end up going for you guys?
Yeah, it's gone pretty well. I think the tweet you're referencing is yesterday we had our trash can in the office was filled with empty coffee cups and an empty bottle of champagne. So a little bit of everything happening in the business. We've had great audience growth, especially over the last 2 to 3 weeks. We launched on ProductHunt and that went extremely well, far surpassed our expectations, and we're still benefiting from that. We also launched with a community called Peak Community yesterday. That's CMOs and emerging CMOs. We're now their content library. So that added a lot of great members to our platform. And then on the sales front, we're starting to get some more momentum and traction. We launched our product in August. And so we've been tweaking packaging, pricing in real time. Man, it feels like that was forever ago, but it really wasn't that long ago when you step back and look at it. So I think we're in a better place now than we were even 2 months ago on packaging and pricing. So today, as we're talking, I was slacking our sales leader this morning. This should be our largest day in company history based on the contracts we have out and what we're expecting to come back. So learning a lot still, but building some momentum as we head into Q4.
Are you guys like focused on revenue right now, or is it more so just growing the audience, or a mixture of both?
It's a little bit of both. We as a business believe that our North Star metric is the member growth or the individual like user growth of the platform. Okay. We know if we reach a audience of critical mass that marketers will follow. That said, we can't sit on our hands and not grow revenue. So we're trying to do that with the right brands consistently. I wouldn't even say conservatively, but there is that unique wrinkle to our business that I think most B2B SaaS companies don't have on the audience front.
Nice. And just to quickly dig into the product hunt, because I think that's huge for a lot of early stage companies. What did that look like?
We had a playbook. Elena from our team, she's our growth marketer, kind of coordinated with the team. We really treated it just about the same way we treated our company launch day in terms of getting other people to comment, share, upvote. We relied on our network heavily. What's interesting about Product Hunt is they rank everything based on a proprietary algorithm. And so there's some certain things like you can't ask for upvotes publicly. You have to ask for support. It was interesting. On the day we launched, we were a top 10 product, but we had more upvotes and more comments than several companies that were ranked ahead of us. So again, that speaks to some of the proprietary nature of it. But then we were really intentional about showing Product Hunt some love during the launch. And I think that ended up paying off. Again, this is me trying to read between the lines a little bit, but the following week, the weekly Product Hunt newsletter, the juice led that newsletter. Like we were the subject line, we were the featured product. And so that ended up actually even being bigger than the day we launched on Product Hunt, which was completely unplanned on our side of things.
So that was all organic, you being in the newsletter?
We think so. Yeah. We have no insight into otherwise, but that day, that was Monday of this week, completely unexpected. We logged on. We're like, we saw the email, like, oh, that's cool. And then we're like, oh shit, like stuff's happening like really fast. We added a lot of members. And so that was fantastic. And then the last thing I'll say, we are going to publish our own Product Hunt playbook. And then on our platform, if you're launching on Product Hunt, we looked at content on our platform of other companies sharing how they launched on Product Hunt. And we created a playlist that's got 5 or 6 brands and their playbook for launching on Product Hunt. We're going to add our own to that. So companies like Guru are in there. And we reference that a lot, and we shared that with our audience as well. So there's a lot to learn from others, and we've tried to gather that content for our own audience.
Nice. We'll definitely have to share that. Switching gears a little bit, the fundraise, we're catching up a little bit before we hit record. What's that looking like? Does it feel like there's an end in sight?
Yes, there's some momentum, I would say, and hopefully an end in sight. So I think last time we talked, We had $1 million of the $3 million seed round soft circled. We now have $2 million of it soft circled. We still don't have a lead investor, so we're trying to use this 3 million or the 2 million soft circled, as well as our own board meeting to drive some urgency. We have several active conversations with potential leads. Actually, right after this podcast recording, I'm going to send some emails out, send some friendly nudges out to some of those individuals, but we're trying to have term sheets in by the end of next week. And then the following week, we have a board meeting, and we'd like to move pretty quickly from there. I shared with you, as you mentioned, we were talking right before we hit record. Some of the co-investors, I hesitate to say they're rooting for the round size to change, but it's crazy how interested they are in the round. They want to lead, they just can't lead a $3 million round, which is interesting. I think you and I have talked even previously about that 3 million seed round feeling maybe slightly big for some Midwest investors and not quite exciting enough for coastal investors. I think even since last time we talked to one investor out of San Francisco who, if they don't typically participate in seed rounds, although they were interested in this one, if they were going to participate in this round, they were going to take the entire round. And so like that just led to some questions that we haven't been asked by other investors, and we chased down and got the answers to, but it was just like a completely different type of conversation. Ended up not being the right opportunity yet, although they want to stay in touch and they're interested in the A round. But
when you say like different questions, is that they wanted more in-depth data and direction type stuff, or
just questions about the cap table were different? And I think, yeah, a little bit more in depth than if we're going to give you $3 million, there may be a little bit more interested in exactly how we're going to spend that versus how somebody who's going to put $500,000 in, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of questions around with High Alpha's venture studio model? Is there more awareness around that now, or do you get a lot of questions?
More awareness, I would say, especially obviously the people that High Alpha introduces us to, they're typically familiar with it. I think what a lot of investors that we talk to that aren't High Alpha that are surprised by is High Alpha's flexibility a little bit. There are times where High Alpha, because the founders end up, based off our unique structure, the founders don't have as much equity as a typical startup would. But founders through seed rounds actually end up with more equity in the business based off who's leading the round and what they prefer. And so although even when people are unfamiliar with, or maybe sometimes slightly uncomfortable with the model, or at least the structure of the cap table based on the model, I think they're always pleasantly surprised at High Alpha's flexibility to look at making adjustments to the model. And that's even what I felt through going through the High Alpha model. Is I think from the outside looking in, like High Alpha does such a good job of everything, the output looking very similar from business to business to business, but behind the scenes, they've launched, I think, nearly 30 companies now. They've done it 30 different ways. And so it's fun to explain that to people, and people are always pretty receptive of the idea of High Alpha being flexible through the fundraising process as well.
Yeah, I just saw, so we're still looking for a lead investor. You want to have term sheets by the end of next week. If you don't have a lead investor by the end of next week, are you thinking you'll change the round size, or are you waiting for the board meeting to discuss that?
I think both of those options would be on the table. There's, based off, like I mentioned earlier, there's several who would be interested in leading a smaller round. Maybe it's a smaller round with like co-leaders. I'd have some to learn about how much you kind of encourage that versus let that happen organically. So those are both certainly options. And I think we'll probably wait until our board meeting to discuss those. The other option is, High Alpha could put together a term sheet and then let others react to that. And that's something that I know they've done as part of their model previously. So there's some optionality with next steps if we don't find the lead that we want, or the terms that we want, or a lead at all. But right now, for the next week or so, just focusing on trying to find that lead.
Got it. Yeah. Do you have any like lead investor conversations that are like towards the bottom of the funnel right now that feel close, or is it more so like still hunting for that perfect?
Yeah, we have three that I would say are very active and potentially very close. Yeah, and so that's some of the communicating we're doing right now. It's also it's driven some urgency with like even like introductions. Some people are still making introductions, which is great. But I'm kind of like, all right, like if you're interested, we should probably meet in the next week. And so like next week is very busy with meetings, which is good. And it's also nice to, when you discuss at the end of those presentations or those pitches, where's the fundraise at? I can say, well, we're pretty far along, like, and we're moving pretty quickly to this stage. If you are interested, we need to know that pretty quickly. We can still obviously make it work, but we're moving fast and the end is in sight. So it's just nice to have that answer. And that, again, that sense of urgency that we hadn't had to this point.
When we talk to different investors and founders, it's always creating FOMO at the pre-seed seed stage is near impossible. It feels sometimes they're not incentivized to move quick. So it's kind of nice that you have, hey, we have a deadline. We have 2 of our 3 million in and can go ahead with this if we want to get in. But if not, we're moving ahead, which has got to be a pretty nice feeling, I'd imagine. I know it's the biggest day in company history and you have a lot of meetings and fundraising to do today. So want to get you out of here. I think for the confidence score, we started at 6, slowly nudged our way up to 7 for the last couple of weeks. Where are we at 1 to 10 today?
7 was the previous high, I think.
Yep.
We'll go 7.5.
Okay. I like it.
Just real exciting movement here. I'm sure people are sitting on the edge of their seat, but I'd say, confident in the round at this point. If we can get one of these 3 leads that we're talking to give us a term sheet we like, we'll be golden.
Love it.
Yeah. So really excited about where we're heading. Just don't want to put the cart in front of the horse quite yet.
Cool. There we go. Well, thank you, Jonathan. We're going to skip next week, and in 2 weeks, we'll catch up again, and hopefully we have a term sheet.
Yep. That sounds good. Hopefully exciting updates on the next one.